In the human jungle, veiled insults and subtle aggressions are the weapons of choice for the socially inept. These individuals, lacking the finesse of true power, resort to rudeness as a pathetic attempt to assert dominance. They mistake your civility for weakness, misinterpreting your composure as an invitation to disrespect. But you, dear reader, are about to become a connoisseur of composure, a master of turning the tables. We'll delve into the art of subtle retaliation, exploring psychological strategies that leave your offender not bloodied but undoubtedly bruised, their ego nursing a wound far more insidious than any physical scar. Forget fiery confrontations and overt displays of anger. We're embracing the elegance of composure, the quiet power of making a rude person squirm under the weight of their own pathetic tactics. This isn't about stooping to their level, it's about utilizing their rudeness as ammunition, turning their own game against them. By mastering these techniques, you don't just defend yourself, you disarm them, exposing their insecurities and revealing the shallowness of their supposed power. This, my friend, is the essence of true control, so buckle up. It's time to dissect the anatomy of rudeness, understand the psychology of the offender, and equip you with an arsenal of subtle yet effective strategies to reclaim your power. Consider this your crash course in the art of elegant retaliation. Rudeness, in its purest form, is a desperate grab for power. It stems from insecurity, a need to feel superior by diminishing those around them. These individuals are often oblivious to social cues, blind to the damage their behavior inflicts. They see your silence as submission, your composure as weakness, mistaking your civility for fear. But beneath this facade of bravado lies a fragile ego, easily bruised by the slightest hint of defiance. They crave validation, a reaction that confirms their perceived dominance. By denying them this satisfaction, you expose the hollowness of their charade. Imagine a peacock strutting about, feathers fanned in a desperate plea for attention. Now imagine that peacock suddenly stripped of its flamboyant plumage. That's the effect you're aiming for, a quiet dismantling of their perceived power, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. Understanding the motivation behind rudeness is key. It allows you to see through the act, to recognize the fear and insecurity fueling their behavior. This awareness is your shield, protecting you from their venomous barbs while you prepare your own subtle counterattack. The beauty of subtle retaliation lies in its elegance. It's not about stooping to their level, engaging in a battle of wits, or resorting to petty insults. It's about utilizing the power of psychology, employing tactics that expose their insecurities and leave them questioning their own behavior. Mirroring, for instance, is a powerful tool. By calmly reflecting their rudeness back at them, you force them to confront their own behavior. Like a mirror held up to their soul, it reveals the ugliness of their actions, often sparking a moment of self-awareness, or at the very least, discomfort. Strategic silence is another potent weapon. By refusing to engage in their game of one-upmanship, you deny them the satisfaction of a reaction. You become an impenetrable wall, their insults bouncing harmlessly off your composure. This indifference speaks volumes, conveying a silent message of disdain far more powerful than any verbal retort. Humor, wielded correctly, can be devastating. A well-placed, subtly sarcastic remark can disarm an aggressor, highlighting the absurdity of their behavior while maintaining your own air of amused detachment. It's the verbal equivalent of a playful slap, stinging without leaving a mark. Remember, the goal is not to humiliate or destroy. It's about asserting your power, re-establishing control, and leaving them with the unsettling feeling that they've somehow become the victim of their own game. Picture this. You're in a meeting presenting a well-thought-out idea, when a colleague interjects with a condescending remark, undermining your efforts. Your immediate impulse might be to fire back, to defend your position with equal force, but resist the urge. This is where mirroring comes into play. Instead of engaging in a heated debate, calmly repeat their comment back to them, phrasing it as a question. "I'm sorry, did you just say?" Or, "I want to make sure I understood you correctly. Did you mean?" The key here is to maintain a neutral tone, devoid of anger or sarcasm. This technique accomplishes two things. First, it forces them to acknowledge their words, stripping away any pretense of innocence or misinterpretation. Second, it puts them on the defensive, forcing them to either justify their rudeness or back down. Either way, you've successfully turned the tables, exposing their behavior for what it is. Mirroring is particularly effective because it avoids escalation. It's a subtle yet powerful way to hold a mirror up to their behavior, forcing them to confront the ugliness of their own actions. More often than not, they'll stumble, stammer, and attempt to backpedal, their initial arrogance replaced with a flicker of self-doubt. Section 5. Strategic silence. The sound of your disapproval. Silence, when wielded strategically, can be deafening. It speaks volumes where words fail, conveying a potent mix of disdain, disapproval, and utter disinterest. When confronted with rudeness, sometimes the most powerful weapon in your arsenal is the absence of a reaction. Imagine being at a dinner party, trapped in a conversation with an individual who seems intent on monopolizing the conversation with their self-important ramblings. They interrupt, dismiss your opinions, and generally act as if your presence is merely an afterthought. In such a scenario, resist the urge to compete for airtime or stoop to their level. Instead, deploy the power of strategic silence. Let your silence hang in the air, a palpable manifestation of your disapproval. Maintain eye contact, but let your face remain impassive, your body language relaxed yet closed off. This deliberate silence is incredibly effective because it denies them the validation they crave. They feed off reactions on the energy generated by provoking those around them. By refusing to engage, you starve them of this sustenance, their words falling flat against the wall of your indifference. Section 6. Humor with a bite, disarming with a sly jab. Humor, like a double-edged sword, can be wielded for both good and evil. In the hands of a master, it becomes a rapier capable of disarming an opponent with a sly jab, exposing their absurdity while maintaining an air of effortless superiority. When dealing with a rude individual, a well-placed, subtly sarcastic remark can be devastatingly effective. The key is to avoid overt aggression or mean-spiritedness. Your goal isn't to humiliate or belittle, but rather to highlight the ridiculousness of their behavior, forcing them to question their own actions. For instance, imagine a colleague making a snide comment about your work performance in front of others. Instead of getting defensive, you might respond with a playful, "Oh, you caught me. I was just trying to lower everyone's expectations so I could surprise them later." This type of response accomplishes several things. It deflects the insult, injects a dose of humor into the situation, and subtly undermines their attempt to belittle you. By refusing to take their bait, you maintain your composure while simultaneously exposing their pettiness. Remember, the goal is not to engage in a battle of wits. It's about using humor as a shield, deflecting their negativity while subtly asserting your own power and intelligence. Section 7. Confidence is your armor, projecting unshakable self-assurance. In the face of rudeness, confidence is your most powerful weapon. It's an invisible shield that deflects negativity, a silent declaration that you refuse to be diminished by their petty attempts to assert dominance. True confidence disarms aggressors, forcing them to question their own tactics. When you exude self-assurance, you inadvertently expose the insecurity that fuels their rudeness. Your composure becomes a mirror, reflecting their own shortcomings, highlighting the disparity between your inner strength and their desperate need for validation. This doesn't mean you need to adopt an arrogant or confrontational demeanor. True confidence is quiet, understated, and unwavering. It's about knowing your worth, owning your space, and refusing to allow anyone to make you feel inferior. Cultivate this confidence by focusing on your strengths, celebrating your accomplishments, and surrounding yourself with people who uplift and empower you. The more secure you are in yourself, the less power others have to diminish you. Section 8. Real-world checkmate, when subtlety reigns supreme. History is replete with examples of individuals who have mastered the art of subtle retaliation. Consider the legendary wit of Winston Churchill, who famously disarmed an opponent with the line, "Madam, you are ugly, but tomorrow I shall be sober." Or recall the quiet dignity of Rosa Parks, whose refusal to give up her seat on a bus sparked a movement. Her defiance, rooted in quiet strength and unwavering conviction, proved that the most powerful revolutions are often fought not with violence, but with unwavering resolve. These examples illustrate the power of subtlety. It's not about sinking to the level of your aggressor, but rather about rising above the fray, using your intelligence and emotional intelligence to disarm and dismantle. Remember, mastering the art of subtle retaliation is a lifelong pursuit. It requires patience, practice, and a deep understanding of human psychology. But the rewards are well worth the effort.